everybody. Today we are going to be making some beautiful lavender soap. So let's get going making our lavender soap. Now first of all, I do have this beautiful bar that I have already made, so I thought I'll give you a look. So today we need to make it because this is the last very sad lonely one on its own. So obviously we need to make a new slab, and lavender is definitely one that I sell out of. I do also need to do some lemon pie. I've also got another one, my oaty type 1 coffee, and so on. There's so many that I need to make because this time of year is when everyone's bought it all for Christmas and I need to start to restock. But at the moment, rice bran oil, which I put in some of my soap, is out of stock everywhere. I have gone to that many stores. I've looked online. I just can't get it. But anyway, I did manage to get a couple single bottles, so I had to pay more because I couldn't buy it in bulk. But anyway, today, let's get going. We're going to be making some beautiful lavender ylang ylang soap. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. The fragrance I'm using is from Pure Candle Supplies, and that is called Lavender Ylang Ylang. So goes with the name, doesn't it? But anyway, that's the one we're going to be making. So I'm going to pop the camera around. I'll show you what I'm using, the oils I'm using, and today I'm going to give you the percentages of oils so that you can go back on Soap Calc and use these to make your own if you like. So anyway, let's turn it around and let's start making. So I do have my oils in here. These are the base oils, but I will go through that as we go along. I've also got, you know, my tray ready, which is my silicone liner inside my slab tray. And this one will make about 65 bars of soap. And this recipe is about 6.5 kilos of soap going into this, oils into this soap. We're going to be using these beautiful micas. These are purple ones. They're from Sud Off. I will show you and tell you the names as we go along. I'm also going to add a tiny bit of titanium dioxide just to lighten up one of the purples, just a tiny bit, and we need a few cups so that we can mix everything up. These cups are 100% recyclable, so I do try and use ones like that if I can, and of course just a few utensils. But let me put some gloves on and some PPE and let's get ready. Alright, now before we start, what we've got here is our 2 cups, and then I do have 2 of these beautiful ones. So this is called the Purple Monster you know, mica that we need to do because we're going to pre-mix these, and that's the darker one. And then we do have a lighter one as well, and that is the beautiful lighter one. But I'm also going to add a little bit of titanium dioxide. So this one is called Pale Violet. It's from Sud Off. They're both from Sud Off. I only use their colors at the moment, so let's just do what we can. So now inside here I am going to be adding some of this. Now this is going to be our main color. I think I was going to do the darker one, but I think that now we do have a lot of you know, oils, so we do need to give probably 3 heaped tablespoons of that mica, and that's only because I'm doing a massive you know, amount of oil. So basically you can do 1 tablespoon per every 500 grams. Now for this one here, this is going to be our one that's going to just be our add-on color. I only need a tiny bit of that, so I'm just going to do 1 tablespoon of that because I'm going to do the smallest amount of that. Now in here I do have my titanium dioxide, so I'm going to put half a tablespoon of that with the light color just to lighten it up a bit more. And this one here, you usually mix it with water and so on, but it will be fine with a bit of oil, it'll be okay. So now what we're going to do is inside here, I do already have my oils that I've measured up. It's better, honestly, just to take oils from this one that we've already done rather than adding extra oils in. So that way we know the measurements are going to be the same. And obviously this is going back into the soap, so then the oil base will be the same. Alright, I am back. I had to go away just for a second to close the door because the wind was blowing it back and forward. So now I've got my little glass, and I'm going to use this just to get some oils out. And so basically I've just got some oils out of there. We're just going to pour some into that one, and I will pour some into this one. I'll probably need more because there's lots of mica in this one here. But we will see, won't we? We'll see how it goes. Then you can stir it up with your spoon, or you can stir it up, with, anything you want. A popsicle stick, doesn't matter. I usually just use the spoon. And Micah gets stuck with the oil on the spoon, which is very annoying when you're washing it. But if you dip this one in the raw soap and just leave it in a container, then it will come off nice and easy. So that's a bit of a tip. And look how beautiful that looks. Hopefully you can see that shimmery kind of purple. It's a lovely purple, that dark one. And now we will see. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need more oil, which I am, I can tell. So let's just add some more. And we will mix it up. Now, when you're doing soap, honestly, my best advice is just try and pre-mix everything first. Because if you don't pre-mix it and you put it in, then it can end up being sort of a bit clumpy on the soap at the end. And also, I do get asked sometimes, people often notice, they say, oh, in your soap there's little white lumps or little bumps sometimes that you can see up close with the photos. It only looks like that up close, but can I tell you that's because I use a heavier Shea. Sometimes I can use up to 25% of Shea butter in mine, which does make it expensive, but for a baby soap, that's generally what I use in my baby soap, but then other ones I might use less. So today I'm going to give you, like I said, the percentages on what we're using for this particular recipe. Now, there, it's all done, and if you can kind of see on the spoon, doesn't it look shimmery? These have a bit of a shine to them. They're just absolutely gorgeous. So just try and mix it so it's nice and smooth. Then I'm going to set these ones aside so we can work on the main mix. So I'll move the camera, and then what we're going to do is we need to also add in the melted butters that I've already melted down. Alright, so I have changed the camera around so it's up a little bit higher. So inside here are all the oils that we talked about before. So in here we do have some sweet almond oil, some castor oil, olive oil, obviously, because olive oil is my main one, some rice bran oil, and you can also add a little bit of sodium lactate, about 1% of your oil recipe, and that way it will just help it release easily from a silicone mold. And I do like it because sodium lactate is a salt derived product, and it really does sort of harden up the bar just a little bit as well. Now also for mine, I do leave it to have a curing time of 6 weeks. Some people will let theirs go in 4 weeks. It's just a personal choice. There's no right or wrong, but for me, mine are just 6 weeks, which is pretty normal. And honestly, when you're making soap, often you make it and it sits on the shelf. It's not going to sell the next week anyway, so then often it will be longer than 6 weeks. And the longer you leave it, usually the better and the harder it is. So now let's just tip in our hard oils. These are the hard oils that I've left to melt down, and lots of you probably know, because I've talked about this a few times, I do actually melt all of mine down in a slow cooker, which is a crock pot for any Americans watching. And I know even on my Patreon I have lots of American people that watch me, so hello to all of you Americans. I'm very, very grateful that you're watching a tiny baby Aussie, because this is a little Aussie channel, but we do have people all over the world, from the UK, India, oh look, Japan. There's so many countries, I can't name them all. Obviously, Australia, the UK, the US, Canada, many places. Now, so we have everything in here. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, what are we going to do next? We are going to be adding in our lye. Now, you have to be really careful with lye. You don't want it to splash up. So usually I keep this bucket away from me, even though, you've got the gloves, the goggles, everything you need to do. You still want to keep it away from your face and just be as careful as you can. Try and just be really gentle when you're pouring it in as well. So I'm going to get the lye that I've already made several days in advance, and we're going to pour that in so that we can get this soap happening. Alright, so now we just have a little sifter. You don't need to have this, but generally when you actually make lye, if you don't keep the lid on, it will get like a little lye ash on top. And if you see in here, if you're watching in here, if you can see those little, they look like little white crystal things on top, that's actually what gathers on the lye. There's nothing wrong with that, but you kind of don't really want those chunks in your soap. So it's definitely better to do what I'm doing, just pour it all in, and then we can just throw these bits out later. And this is only because I haven't covered it. If some of them go in, it doesn't really matter. They will dissolve anyway. And you can see when doing this, it will go into a smooth kind of paste. You can just kind of smooth it into here. But that way you're not having massive big lumps go in. So you can see like it comes into a smoothie type paste. And then whatever tiny little bits are left at the end, I basically just throw these out. So there you go. We've done all of that, haven't we? Now, when you're making lye, do make sure that you set your lye aside, you know, and put it up high where nobody else is going to get it, reach it. A child can't accidentally get it because, as we know, sodium hydroxide and water, which is lye, can be quite dangerous, and we definitely don't want any of that hassle. So now we do have everything in the bucket, so we're going to just get our mixer. So we'll just pop the mixer in. And then I'm going to just plug it all in. We will make sure it's beautiful before we divide it off into 2 colours so that we can make our soap. Now we are going to mix this up. I'm going to divide this into a couple containers. We're going to blend this more, but it's blended enough so that we can just put it in a little bit into a separate jug. All right, so it's blended up enough. So let's just add our color. I always add my color, not the fragrance, until the end. So we're just going to add this light color in. This whole amount here is just going to be one particular color, and we will mix it up. Now, do remember, some micas, some fragrances, they may actually change or thicken up your mixture. So that's really important to remember. So never add it in until you're really ready to add it in. If you do it at the start, things can go really wrong because you don't have a lot of time. But I do know these ones are pretty good. All right, so I have mixed in the color. Now just let's add in the fragrance. We're going to add almost all of the fragrance in here because I only have a tiny bit, you know, of mixture in the other one. So let's just blend this one up. Now let's just do our separate one. So we're just going to we'll move this one aside a tiny bit. And I do have my little one here. So let's just add this one in with the bright color. This is going to be, you know, our matching one. All right, we do have our silicone mold here, and for anyone that wants to know, I bought these from AU Cutters. There are some amazing people in Australia that make some beautiful, beautiful molds, and if you're in another country, there is many other people. So I always say try and look for a small company that is making these or hand making them, because you're keeping a small business, you know, all together, and that's what I personally love. So anyway, let's pour this in before it thickens up too much. Now, I know you may be thinking, oh no, this is grey, but it will come back to a purple. It's not going to be a bright purple because I didn't want that. It's more of a natural kind of purple, which is fine. That is more than fine because that's what we want. And then what I do with all of my buckets, I just leave them for 1 or 2 days, and then once it's solidified into soap, then I clean it, because then it doesn't hurt my hands and it is better for my drain. If you washed it now, you're basically just putting oil down the drain. So we'll scrape it out to try and do the least amount down the drain as we can, to try and keep the environment as good as we possibly can. All right, it's looking beautiful, isn't it? Now we're on to the second one. Now the second one is definitely getting harder than I'd like, but that's okay. And so all I'm going to do is just do drops inside, nothing too exciting. And that's basically it. Now let's just pour some on the top. I'm never too overly worried about the top, like honestly, or the soap. Like, it doesn't really matter. Now, if you want, you can go and get your stick and just stir, which we'll get one and just give it a stir. So we're just going to use an isopole stick. This is just a thin one. And if you don't want to do that, you definitely don't have to. You can rinse off the isopole stick and use that again. And now we'll just pop on a few bits of purple on the top, just to give it a lovely texture and a bit of colour. But I am going to put, which I always do put, some lavender buds and some blueberry little bud things on top, and I'll show you those. Now, yeah, always do florals sparingly, everyone, because if you imagine, nobody wants to be having to pick them off, even though we think, oh, they look really pretty to put on, but a lot of people get put off by buying the soap. I definitely noticed that. So try to, you know, remember less is more sometimes. Now on the top, you could leave it, you could add a bit of texture, but usually I just kind of go over the top. And that's pretty enough because I am going to be putting some florals on top. So let me get the florals. So now these ones are the florals. These are little blue corn, what are they? Little cornflowers. And sometimes these ones are better than putting lavender on because lavender can end up looking like mouse poo. Sounds really gross, but it can because it dries out and leaves it. I do put lavender buds, but I'm only going to put a really small amount. And then this blue is going to give that look of lavender. So it's an alternative to, you know, to make it look like lavender without, you know, the horrible look we just talked about. And now I do have my lavender, so I'm just going to do about that much. That is pretty much more than enough. That is it. So just, it's basically a tablespoon, this big lot. Now at the end of this, I usually do spray this with isopropyl. It does help, definitely help sort of, you know, everything. But the one thing I will tell you is when you spray that on top of flowers, it often makes the flowers go brown. So you usually do it first or don't do it at all, or a very light spray, but it's a personal choice. But even if I get the frosting, I never worry about that. And really you're going to get that, you know, sort of the ash on soap or frosting, whatever you want to call it. You're really going to get that when the temperatures aren't great. But if you keep your room around 23 degrees, I usually put the air conditioner on, and I just try and keep it on around that temperature, and that way we're fine, you know. And but if you don't, that's when all the issues can come in, you know, when you see lots of frosting. And I've had it on mine, and I can tell you every single time it's because it's been really hot, I haven't made the room cooler or something like that. That's usually what it is. But anyway, I don't think I'm going to spray it. I think I'm just going to leave it. That is it. Tomorrow we will come back. I will show you the cut. So that will be in this video, obviously, and I hope that you're going to love it. I know that you will. I know you're going to see how gorgeous it's going to be. But anyway, let's come back for the next bit. So it is the next day, everybody, and look how beautiful this purple has come up. And that's what I just wanted to show you. This is the top of it. Doesn't it look so beautiful? So let's just go and cut it and see what it looks like. Alright everyone, it is time to cut. We've done all the measurements, so let's just do one so that I can show you what it looks like. This of course is on my splitter, so let's just pull one of the logs out and then I will cut it later. I mean, doesn't that look gorgeous with those bright colors? And then of course that is going to be the top of the bar. Now my camera is on low, so I'm going to have to finish it off here, but I hope you have loved it. Make sure you check out my Instagram because I will have pictures of the finished project on Insta, and of course this YouTube video will be coming to you all soon. Make sure you give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to join us on Patreon if you would love to see some of our amazing things, our recipes, and we have got a 30-page book that we have finished making. That's going to be an ebook, and it will be available to people that are signed up to the highest level on Patreon or have been on there for at least 6 months and are current members. And over 100 people already have that book and they absolutely love it. So I hope that I can get more of those out to all of you soon. I hope you've loved this video. See you next time.